Hi, I'm Kyle Wagner. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. Obviously, I would prefer to talk to you in person, but they pulled me away to officiate a powder puff game. It's an obligation that I've committed to every year they've run it, so I apologize. But hopefully, you can get something out of this. They asked me to share what I think are some valuable tenets to being a part of the GoWags organization, and apologize for my handwriting. I'll do my best to give you some explanation for what you're seeing behind me. But I like to think in pictures sometimes, and so what I have some things that I want to go over, and the first of which is how I envision an organization and where we find ourselves in that organization often dictates our responsibilities and our role in that organization. All of us exist for the benefit of our players. So there's a paradigm that I've come to believe in that places these responsibilities in a little bit of a hierarchy. Political, the baseball system that we find ourselves playing in, the travel ball world, and all the venues that we have to go and all the showcases that we have to attend. The strategic, and that would be the board to try to do right by the coaches and the players that fall below it, and then the theatrical and the tactical. Now, I stole this from a military organization book, but I really think it's true in so many different areas that we find ourselves: political, strategic, theatrical, and tactical. And when I think like this, some things become clear as to what it is we need to do to best equip our athletes to meet their goals or whatever their goals might be. But this is why we exist. We exist to give our players opportunities that maybe others organizations can't, but certainly try to give them tools to the best of all of our ability. So everything we do hinges on how will this benefit the players? How will this help them when they take the field of play to be the best that they can be, to be the best teammates, the best players, to present themselves the best when that exposure opportunity comes. So this tactical level ultimately is what we want to be great at. This is how organizations should be evaluated. Do your players play well? Do they respect the game? Do they respect their opponents? Do they respect their coaches? So that is a very critical piece to the entire organization. When I say critical, I probably mean the most important. Now, this right above the tactical is what is referred to as the theatrical, and how the coaches and the players get along. I've been studying coaching dynamics for a very long time. The art of coaching is really hard. There is no rule book. There is no uh, set of rules and guidelines that you can follow that's going to say, hey, if you do this, you're going to produce great athletes. There's always an art to being a great coach, and it requires coaches to constantly study, to constantly read and seek more and more information and challenge their suppositions as to what it is they think they know and what's out there and what's coming on board, what's new, right? And over and above information, it's how do we relate to our players so when they take the field, they're as confident as they can be. So I take a lot of pride in the coaches clinics that I run to try to make sure that the coaches are informed, but they also understand there's more than just supplying information. We can get information on YouTube. There's the relationship between coach and player that inspires the players, makes them want to play hard day in and day out. So that's at the theatrical level. The strategic level is a very misunderstood level. There are things that the board will have to do to put into place that sometimes might contradict what's down in here, and maybe contradicts the wrong word. but certainly might run counter to some things that you would think might not be in the player's best interest. But again, the strategic level, it buffers up against the political and the theatrical. So the board will communicate with the coaches, and the board is responsible for understanding the political climate, what's happening around us, what changes need to be made based upon what we're hearing, shifts in the structure of the baseball travel industry, shifts into what's happening locally in central Pennsylvania, and maybe if there are opportunities in neighboring areas, right? So, uh, and then last, the political system is always being aware of how travel ball is being presented and where are the dangers. Okay, so uh, the reason I wanted to share that is because when you go and you ride in your car ride home, I need you to understand at what level you're sitting. And emotion will always be a part of sport. You can never remove the emotion of a game, and there are going to be times when potentially decisions get made that you disagree with. You see something that you don't like. Just know that there are levels that might not be aware of that, and it's perfectly okay to share that information with them. But just don't go approaching them as if uh, these levels absolutely understand what's happening down here. And of course, the opposite is true. We always want to consider where it is our perception is with respect to what it is we're seeing and where we're at. And this is the family dynamic, of course. We're always tuned into what our sons and daughters feel, and many times we go into protect mode, trying to do right by them. But coaches just understand that they have 11 to 12, maybe even more, depending on what age group that they're trying to work with. And I'm of the opinion that conversation cures so much. So this message with respect to this is trying to get you to understand that uh, just be humble with your conversations. Don't go into conversations thinking that you have it all figured out and this is the way it has to be because this is what I've seen with my own eyes. There are other people in different roles that might have a different perspective and something that you might need to consider. Okay, so I wanted to share that. The other thing which hasn't changed from day one is what I think our responsibility is for this lowest level, this tactical level, this athlete that's out there competing. And sometimes this can be an uncomfortable message for players because what we're asking them to do many times is to get outside a comfort zone. I don't think growth happens when you're not outside your comfort zone, when you're challenging limits, and sometimes that can be really difficult. So the first thing is practice and play with good players as often as possible. The reason why that can be challenging is because it's really nice and satisfying for young people to be the best player in their team. When you're the best player in your team, your confidence is super high. But what I believe is true is I always think you need to see someone in your presence that's a little bit better than you to keep pushing the bar and making you see what could be your future in this really tangible form, this form of a teammate that might be capable of doing things better than me. I think nothing pushes us more than seeing someone slightly more skillful than us, and sometimes that can be hard. I believe if you're the best player in your team, you need to find a new team. Now that can sometimes cause conflict in a team setting, but if really what we're after is to try to give our athletes great opportunities later, the last thing we want to do is to have our best athletes become stagnant in that team setting. So we're always out there looking for more players to bring on board, and what that naturally does is that naturally lifts everyone. So players 10, 11, and 12, it can be really uncomfortable to see yourself as 10 or 11 and 12, but we want to believe in you. We want to help grow you, but we also don't want to hide behind the reality that, look, if we're going to travel with rosters of size 10 or 11 and 12, and we want to constantly do right by our all our players, including our best players need challenged, and they always want to know that you're out there looking for other better players to bring on board. So in the travel baseball industry, it's really naive to think that you could take a roster of 12 kids at the age of 9 and travel with them all the way to 13. It's really naive. And I would even argue it's unfair to your best players, because that's what sport is at its very nature. It is this belief that hard work can take us to a different level, and when we reach that different level, we deserve to be surrounded by players that can play at that level. So that's something that we don't ever want to take away from our best athletes. Okay, practice and play with good players as often as possible. Get stronger, get faster. The reason why this can be difficult is because it's boring. It's very uncommon to find coaches, strength coaches, that can make that aspect of development fun and exciting, something you wake up wanting to do. Oftentimes, the get stronger, get faster component is very monotonous. And I suppose under the get stronger, get faster, depending on your age, I think you would have to throw in some of these metrics that are now so attractive to college coaches, high school coaches, if they're monitoring it. But this idea of throwing a ball harder from whatever position probably qualifies. Hitting a ball harder would qualify. So get stronger, get faster, just meaning an investment in the body. Surround yourself with encouraging and honest coaches. The encouraging part is always easy to see. We love when coaches clap their hands, praise us, pat us on the back. It makes mom and dad feel like they're in a good spot, right? You always want to encourage, and I think there's sometimes there's this idea that, well, why do I want to praise them for things that they should be doing? Everyone wants to feel good, right? Like all it takes is a little. I mean, this is my thing. I'm always clapping, and okay, so yeah, they're supposed to be able to catch a fly ball, but it's okay to praise them on it too. Like, it doesn't mean that you're minimizing what they're doing. It means, I see what you're doing. I see you working, right? So uh, throw your praise out as often as you can. And when you do that, what tends to happen is the honesty, it lands easier. It lands softer, right? So if you don't praise a ton, but you feel like you want to hit them with the honest truth, sometimes your athletes are going to resent that. They're going to say, okay, so the only thing you ever see is the bad stuff. I get it, right? I'm never good enough. And that's how young people think. So you got to be free with your praise. If you're free with your praise, you can be free with your criticism. And just, measure that. But we want to be honest. We don't want to walk on eggshells. We want to address it as we see it. Um, but the other thing too is just understand that sometimes you can add discretion to that idea of honesty. Like, pick your battles, know your surroundings. Sometimes honesty in a social setting can hurt, so you can be honest in a private setting too. So just be aware of that. Okay. Compete or develop at something year round. Not a big fan of I'm taking a break, right? I just don't think that's the way people work. Now, you want to take a break from your sport and play a different sport? Outstanding. I think it's beautiful. I love it, right? I was a three-sport athlete, and times have changed, of course. So I'm not suggesting that everyone should be a three-sport athlete, but it's certainly something that we don't want to discourage, and something that we want to even commend if someone goes down that road. Okay, so the compete or develop, when you find yourself constantly in competition, that challenges your brain. It challenges your will. It's something that you can always grow from. Football translates to baseball, and basketball translates to football, and wrestling translates to baseball. And I think all those things are true. So don't be afraid to compete at something year round. And if you're not going to compete, don't be afraid to get stronger, get faster. Spend some time in the garage and work at your craft, so when your season rolls around, you're better. And there's something to be gained from that too. Okay. And the last one, these were on our walls at the old building. The last one is have productive fun. Every time that I would design my practice, first and foremost, the first thought that crossed my mind is, are the kids going to have fun doing this? And if the answer was yes, then I would build onto that. And then I would create different teaching moments through that idea of fun. But whenever you deal in athletics, what you want these two things to feel very similar. You want to make sure that when your athletes show up to practice, that this event is something that they enjoy. You don't want them to resent their sport. And I suppose that's where it does come down to the art of coaching, is that you can grow your athletes and have them continually love their sport. Right? It's not this mutually exclusive thing where we grow our athletes and we ask them to do boring, monotonous stuff, and that's just the way it is. And you're going to have to figure it out. And if you can't, others will replace you. Like that feels like a stale message to me. One of the best things about GoWags, at least it was when I coached, was we had a blast. I had a blast in the dugout. My coaches had a blast. Our players had a blast, and we beat people because we had a blast, right? Not in spite of the fun we were having. So have productive fun, and I don't mean dodgeball, and I don't mean kickball, and I don't mean throwing water balloons. I mean have productive fun. I mean challenge them in ways that they might not be challenged, but kids love to be challenged. They love to be challenged. That alone is productive fun. They love to play games, and hopefully I can help communicate that to the coaches what that looks like in a practice. But I, I'm thrilled that GoWags still is what I would consider to be on the leading edge of travel baseball. I think the GoWags brand still carries weight, and hopefully you guys are excited to represent GoWags. Hopefully you get some information that here tonight that you look forward to implementing. Most importantly, I hope your kids find themselves surrounded by great coaches, great teammates, and a support system that can give them a vision for their future. It's a great sport, but it does take a lot of work to be the best version of yourself. So I look forward to meeting more of you, seeing the familiar faces when we do the coaches clinic. But that's what I wanted to share. I'll see you soon.